episode 26.
It's been a while.
I know, it has been a while. Hey guys, welcome back. Episode 26 of Big Moves. I'm here with David, my left-hand man. And we got some pretty cool things to talk about.
Yeah. We've been busy, right? A little busy.
To say the least,
Yeah.
I would say. Grand opening.
Grand opening. Went well.
Grand opening went well. We also had a pizza and profit chat with new potential investors here in Newport Beach. I think that went well.
Yeah. Yeah. That was probably the least stressful thing of all of the things that happened.
The pizza and profit.
Pizza and profits.
Yep. And then we had a meeting at the restaurant. We had an investor meeting for our big transaction.
That's right, yeah.
Malibu Road.
That feels so long ago, but it was probably 3 weeks ago.
It was probably, we've been really packing things in there. So
Yeah.
that's our that's our iconic Malibu property that everybody's been hearing about right now and is consuming everybody. Bit of my life and yours, probably.
Yeah. Yes. And not only mine, but everybody else here in the office.
Yes, it has been just a tremendous transaction. One that I'm like thinking, okay, it's going to be so hard to do this. It has been, but when has everything that's really been good to us been easy? I've had a lot of easy stuff happen, and it's always proven to be like, I'm not that valuable. This, I'm working nonstop. You're working nonstop on it. And so as long as we do everything right, and as long as all of our numbers are good, and we keep working hard for that, then I just know we're going to win. I just know it. I wouldn't be doing it if we weren't going to win. So, but it's been time consuming.
I agree. I think also, where should I start with this? I think a lot of us trust your vision and your idea and your plan. And I think it's been really well conceived. I don't think that the idea of moving to this property, we should probably talk a little more detail about it, has been just some crazy thing you did on a whim. There's a lot behind it. There's a lot of moving parts.
Well, that's where the time consumption comes into play. Is all the homework and the due diligence.
Well, let's talk about the property. I know
talk about it.
Certain details we can't talk about, but the property is, let's just say, a high-profile property.
So it's 24844 Malibu Road. We're talking at the Tadao Ondo property, formerly owned by Richard Sachs and then sold to Kanye West. And and I mean, that's just the truth. That's public record. And now we're in contract to buy it from one of his companies. And it's something that we're not going to just recreate the wheel on. Okay. This home is an architectural masterpiece. It's a piece of art. I think Richard Sachs, who's he's a famous art collector, he called it a Cubist Picasso. And everyone that I've talked to that's either worked with Ondo or bought and sold his homes, like the Marmol Radziner team, who actually built the home for Richard Sachs. Okay. They also built a home for Tom Ford in New Mexico in Ondo. So what are we going to do? I'm just going to get them to rebuild it. like it's already built, but they already have the original plans. They know exactly what it looked like. Now there's some things that Richard Sachs did that aren't absolutely necessary to restore it to what Ondo had envisioned for it. So Richard Sachs probably had some like platinum door handles in there. We don't need to do that, for one. But we can't cut any corners when it comes to the quality and the overall vision, what it was that Ondo had and Marmol Radziner had executed on. So I'm just going to do exactly what they had done. And I'm not going to say, well, I think it might look good if we opened up this wall. Like, no, not even messing with that.
Right. I think the key word to describe the work on this property is a restoration as opposed to renovation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. It is absolutely just a restoration of what it originally was. There'll be some mechanical upgrades. So the home was built in 2013. We've come a long way with some like HVAC items, home automation, smart technology, these types of things that we can incorporate into the home now. They're actually much less invasive than what people were used to when you had to run hard cabling for everything, if you wanted it. Right now, I mean, Wi-Fi is amazing.
Yeah.
And you can save a whole bunch of holes on the wall.
Yeah. There's probably, the conduit's probably designed to accommodate like Cat5 cables.
They have everything there. I think at the end of the day, what we'll be able to do is add in some newer technology. It's going to save us some money. It's going to improve the overall feel of the home, bring it up to, because somebody's going to be a billionaire or somebody is a billionaire that's going to be buying this home. And they want the best of the best. They want to walk into that thing and it knows your name and what temperature you want it. And by the way, there's a cup of coffee that's ready around the corner for you,
Yeah, it's interesting looking at the property and talking with people about the property, people that are obviously friends of mine that are not billionaires, certainly not even millionaires.
Yeah.
And when we think of a home, we think of something that's a one-time purchase. We own it forever. It's this place of comfort where we can return. But looking at this property, the comment that I get, and some people will say it's doesn't look comfortable. They've even said other spicier words for it, but their perspective is also coming from sort of a layman's point of view, where it's a home is like this little place where you go home and return after a long day's work. But I think this home in particular, it's more of an art piece and a collector's item than it is a house, and you have to view it from the lens of somebody who has.
They have a comfortable home somewhere,
multiple places around the park.
In Montecito, where they get to cozy up with the blankie and whatever and listen to the kids play outside. Like, this is not that. This is a showpiece.
Right.
This is absolutely that. Now, it doesn't mean that somebody can't go there and be comfortable, but this is not your primary residence.
Right.
None of the people on this road, very few of them live there full time.
Right.
Maybe there a month or two out of the year, if that much at all.
Right. But I think that alone is a hard thing for a lot of people to digest. Is having not only a second house or a third house that you live in part time or around the world, but one or few of your houses are purchased for the sole purpose of it being sort of an art piece. Like owning a Picasso, which was the analogy you mentioned earlier, or owning these really unique pieces of artwork, because Ando's work is so treasured globally.
It is.
Yeah.
It is really. Here is an example. I was expecting to go into the Malibu city and talk to them about rebuilding this, and I was expecting them to say, you have one of the most complex transactions on your hands. It's one of the most expensive. It's gotten so much attention, and buckle up. Like, that's kind of what I was preparing myself when I went to the city. And I was speaking with literally every department. And for one, I would have to give them the address, and they didn't just know it right off the top of their head. And two, it's a $21 million purchase, and they're selling $100 million, $200 million homes all the time that are on 10 acres that have 200 feet of oceanfront sand. This is just a drop in the bucket in Malibu when you look at the amount of wealth that is there. It's generational wealth. It's royalty wealth. The neighbor next to us is a military, a foreign military. Like it's pretty out of this world. And so investing in something like this is completely different than what Belwood traditionally does with our single family homes in suburban neighborhood, because that's what most people can wrap their head around. But that's not what's so cool about Belwood, is you don't have to just be in your comfort zone in a single family home in suburban neighborhood, with a $2 million, purchase, and that be amazing. Like, what about the top? What about the most expensive real estate in the world? See, once you start saying, oh, I can start investing in something like that, and I can be a part of that. Now that's where lives get changed, because anybody can invest in, nominal real estate here and there, especially we've proven that with our system. Now we're taking it a step further and say, not only can you invest in regular real estate, but you can invest in an architectural masterpiece that there are only a few of them in the world, that was owned by 2 billionaires previously, and now we are owning it. Now we are buying it. Were you thinking about owning a piece of billionaire real estate last year at this time?
No. Oh God. No. In fact, I would say since I started in February, the idea of being able to invest in that kind of property just never even crossed my mind. Yeah. I'm thinking single family residence in Sacramento, Folsom.
Exactly.
Maybe we'll get something in Huntington Beach or something.
Exactly.
And things have changed quite a bit.
Absolutely. And that was the whole premise of coming down here. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we proved a system in Sacramento, and it was a great place to establish systems because the homes were affordable, labor was affordable. I had a lot of resources there. I was able to get a big office with a lot of staff, refine our systems, then start plucking staff out that could be supplemented with our tech stack. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, it's not about just replacing people with AI, but in order for us to save costs and be able to provide such high ROIs, we had to start plucking people out of these systems and implementing technology. Sacramento was a great place to do that, but it was always just the first step.
Proof of concept.
It was proof of concept. So we did that. Then we moved off to the Bay Area. Then we went so can we do nationally? Can we go over to the East Coast? Boom, we've done it. Okay, we've proven every concept of Belwood's scalability. Mm-hmm. Now we're at the point where, okay, we've proven scalability. Now we want to go into the finest luxury real estate that we can get our hands on, because that is something that people just couldn't even imagine getting involved with in the first place unless you were a billionaire. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When are you going to buy a billionaire's real estate, piece and not be a billionaire? Like, it just doesn't happen. So here's another concept that we're proving with our systems. And we moved down here to do that. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Yeah. So much to say about all that. Moving from some of the properties Belwood was involved in before to this is just this. How do you describe it? It's like a quantum leap. I don't know.
It is a quantum leap.
It's hard to put into words. I was expecting to be a little bit more linear progression of how we would get to this. I never even imagined actually that we would get to this place so quick. And I think this level of real estate is something that had never even crossed my mind, because it's just so out of. Yeah. It doesn't cross my mind about people, billionaires owning this sort of real estate for that sort of purpose.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it was amazing. I mean, it's been amazing to be able to walk through some of these places, to see. That's actually a whole fascinating thing we can talk about at some point is understanding and just getting a glimpse of how the ultra wealthy live. Yeah. It doesn't fill me with wants and desires of that sort of thing, but it's just a sort of fascinating just to observe those sort of lifestyles.
So the amount of wealth that is held right in the top 1% is something that the 99% aren't supposed to see. Mm-hmm. Nobody wants to share, their financial sheet, right? That's just not their PFS. They're not going to share their data like that, because then you'll see the disparagement, and it's absolutely ridiculous. Okay, so where I grew up, if your grandparents or if your family was lucky enough to have a vacation home, then you guys did pretty dang well. Yeah. You had 2 houses, and so I knew families like that, and by no means were they millionaires, but they were able to make, a couple $100,000, right? And they were able to build wealth enough to buy a home in South Lake Tahoe, and then they had one in Folsom. Now, if you do that there, then you've basically made it. You're making a few $100,000 a year. The people in these areas make a few $100,000 a day. And I'm not exaggerating.
Yeah.
Okay. The water bill on some of these houses is in the $30,000, $40,000. You're talking we're talking full staff to manage these properties. We're not talking about Kanye's house. I'm talking about 133 South Mapleton that I was looking at across the street from Kylie Jenner. It's Mr. Chow's property. Oh, yeah. I'm in, conversation with buying this, listed at 70 something million, down to 68. My offer's 32. Okay. But we're talking about it, right? And we're talking about like the most luxurious real estate. But just to maintain that home, you're looking at $1 million a year just to maintain it. Mm-hmm. And these people come there and visit there every once in a while. So imagine you had a vacation home in South Lake Tahoe. Like, this is so expensive, costs us $10,000 a year to maintain. We got the gardener, we got the water, mm-hmm. So the people that are on that level, congratulations. You have a vacation home and that's amazing. You've been successful and that's the American dream. But when you have a product that you're selling to the whole world rather than your community, I have an HVAC company and we sell to the Sacramento region. Okay, well imagine if you had an HVAC company that sold to the rest of the world. If you're making $200,000 in an isolated area, imagine if you found a way to scale that to global aspect. Now there's where wealth starts to come into play. And if you're making a few $100,000 a day, okay, and obviously you have other investments, you have financial advisors that handle this, but these people have the ability just to buy. Then you're going to say, well, I'm not going to buy the comfortable house in South Lake Tahoe. I'm going to buy the Tadao Ondo on Malibu Road because one, it's going to retain its value as an art piece, and two, it's a little check mark on my belt, of what I've accomplished. These people want to invest just as much as somebody who makes a couple $100,000, but the scale is different.
Sure.
The level is different. Same principles, but just one business owner or one business corporation is selling to a lot more people, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. So that's where you get this money. I mean, these people have made world businesses. It's not like you're going to go to Malibu Road and say, so what do you do? I own the local Del Taco. No. I own all the Del Tacos in California. Okay, right? Now, what do you do? The one neighbor is, he builds malls, shopping malls in the Midwest. And we're talking like big malls. And so if he were to tell me, well, I build ADUs in Folsom, I would say that's a great business model, but how did you afford a $50 million house? You better be building a lot of ADUs. And if you're only building 100 of them, well, then the people on this strip are building 200 of them, or much more than that, 2,000 of them. Mm-hmm. So that's what you get in these people. They're not aliens. They're not people that don't have a heartbeat like you and I. They just found a way to scale their business. And once they scaled their business, they also scaled up the things that they buy.
Sure.
They went from Cole Haan to Gucci, right? They went from these things. And so that's where we're at right now, is that top level of real estate.
Yeah, it's also interesting because we do see some, we've been to some properties where I think both you and I have looked at each other and said, this is what happens when you just have almost too much money. Because there's just too much stuff that they own. I don't know if it's just sheer
all the
boredom.
Stuff. And then, yes,
my
gosh.
Even the house was just full of I mean, it was an assault on the eyes, right? Just stuff everywhere, right? But
exactly.
And all that stuff was probably worth more than my house. One art piece.
That's what I'm saying. They have so much money that in some of these cases, if they're not, philanthropists or something like that, they spend it on themselves. And now that billionaire whose house that we went into, mm-hmm. he's going to die someday, and all those things are just what did they, they were fun to look at. So we'll see how far that, helps him. But the point is, it's disposable income, or it's disposable cash. It's billions of dollars. Now, this family was an oil family, and you could probably say that they might even be closer to $1 trillion mm-hmm. family rather than $1 billion family. Mm-hmm. And then just look at that. I mean, they probably have to spend money,
Yeah. We could probably talk for about an hour or 2 hours just about that one particular experience. Just
Oh my God. That was a fun one.
Yeah.
The golf cart going to the front door, they picked us up at one of the several gates, and the golf cart was a Rolls Royce.
And it was purple.
Yeah,
It was like chrome wheel.
eccentric. Yeah. Purple Rolls Royce.
So you mentioned the Mr. Chow house, which I think belonged to his wife. I don't know if they were married. I don't know what their situation was. Talk to you briefly about it, and I think you said it's on sale. They're selling it for $60 million. You said that it only needs about, not a whole.
It needs a backyard. It needs a better backyard.
Yeah, the backyard was just.
And then maybe about $1 million in the master bedroom, and then maybe about $750 in the kitchen, one of the kitchens.
Yeah. But I asked you, I said, well, why wouldn't somebody who has that kind of money, why not they just put in $1 million, $2 million, which is, I'm sure they have. It's like pocket change.
Yeah.
And they can get much greater value for the house. Because I would do that if I had a house.
Yeah.
And I could get, let's say I had it for $800,000. I could sell it for 1.2.
But what if you have too much money and you don't even care about that? It's a pain in your butt. You're like, dude, I don't even get away.
But that scale is so hard to comprehend.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that losing $20-30 million is okay as long as there's no headache attached to it.
Well, think about what if you lost $2,000 or $3,000? That would be a bummer.
Yeah.
But what if I said, hey, dude, no. If you want to save $2,000 or $3,000, you need to make this phone call, talk to this person, do this. You're like, bro, I got to work. I'm like doing stuff. I appreciate saving $2,000 or $3,000, but you're going to cost me more time and energy to save that $2,000 or $3,000 than it's really worth for me. Mm-hmm. So scale yourself.
Yeah.
And see that $20 or $30 million is your $2,000-$3,000. My $2,000-$3,000, like I would not want to lose that. But 20 to 30 is your 2 to 3. Same with mine. Okay, like we're on the same scale here. Okay, but that's where it comes. They don't want to deal with it. They don't want to deal with the hassle of dealing with contractors. Real estate is not the easiest thing to do. I mean, you watch these podcasts, you watch these things, and the HGTV, and they'll move the van away, and it's done. And you're like, that's not how that works. So these people are smart. These people are they become billionaires for a reason, okay? And they can weigh out things, okay? Cost versus reward. And at some point in time, they're saying, you know what? It's not worth my sanity. I would much rather be in the south of France than on my boat than dealing with contractors every 30 minutes when they're asking me about permits, plans. Mm-hmm. This was an issue. And okay, well then you're going to hire somebody to manage that. You still have to talk to that manager.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Mr. So-and-so, what is your vision with this? And I'll take it from here. And then they come back. So far, your vision is somewhat there, but we have to have these conversations. Now, these people are saying, I don't even care about this. I'm trying to acquire this new corporation for $5 billion, and you're talking to me about a $20-30 million transaction that you're taking time from me. That's where it comes from. It's the value of the loss.
Yeah, I think most of us will probably look at $20 million as something that would be life-changing. It's a life-changing amount of money for somebody and their family, and many people associated with them. Yeah. But not unlike $2,000 or $3,000 being life-changing for the people that I met in Zimbabwe. Yeah.
It's relative. Mm-hmm. It is really relative.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think just because like those kind of numbers are something that we don't deal with on a daily basis.
So now you do.
Yeah.
Welcome to Belwood, where you get to actually talk about these numbers because you never would have been able to do it on your own. Same thing with me. You wouldn't have. Same thing with me. Like when I talk about us, I'm talking about us collectively with Belwood investing together. And this would have never been an option if we didn't have you on our team, if we didn't have our VAs in the Philippines, if we didn't have our construction management staff, if we didn't have all of these people here together, we wouldn't have been able to scale.
Yeah.
But this is now our access to something that we didn't even have an option to see before. Some of these houses that we're walking through, you are not allowed to go walk through those houses unless you are, a credible or, obviously credible, but have shown your financial statements. Like it's going to take some time. Belwood's there. They're saying, yeah, Belwood, we see what you're doing. Come on over here and look at our luxury property that's owned by a famous person and has more money in art inside the home than the home is worth. And we're walking by Picassos. We're walking by Rembrandts. We're walking by these massive sculptures and stone crystals and all these things that are from, like the front door at this one is from a 17th century monastery that they brought over. And it's like hand carved. If you don't have credentials to get into a property like that, walk into it, then how will it ever be an option if you don't even have the opportunity to walk through the door? So the minute I walk through the door of one of those places with you, that means that we all walk through that door together. And so as Belwood scales, we all scale. That's why it says, let's invest. It's not Bo invest, it's let's invest. And that's why we share half the profit. So I show you, this is a true partnership here where we're scaling our industry and this market together. It's not just a one-man road. And that's, I think, probably one of the coolest real estate investment mechanisms that's ever been created, is that access to something you were told, you can't come in here.
Yeah, no.
You know, what kind of car are you driving? Who's your staff? Have your staff call my staff. Right? Have your people call my people, and then we'll talk about you maybe getting in through the front gate.
Yeah. Not that I care anymore, but I take pride in when we go visit a house and I get to pull into the driveway and there's all these fancy cars and I pull in my Toyota. I don't really care, but it's like, hey, I'm here. Like I'm supposed to be here.
I pull in with my Tahoe.
Yeah.
Okay. I got the family wagon in tow, you know, but it's fine. You know, that's the thing is we've already proven ourselves with our performance. We've shown what we can do. And now it's not about how fancy we are. It's about how can we continue to scale this with our resources to where, I'll even step back a little bit. I was talking with a major corporation, CIM, guy named Richard Ressler, just mentor. Like I've only spoken to him once. I'm like, dude, I just need to like talk to him. So imagine Belwood. Yes, we're doing luxury real estate, but now we're doing luxury hotels. Okay, these are for like REITs, typically accredited investors. But if we could democratize some of these hotel options, you know, like now that's amazing. That's something that I'm having I'm going to have to wrap my head around there, because I want to understand all of the revenue streams of a hotel and you know what's the actual costs associated with this and what's the potential but if other corporations are doing it and winning, then why couldn't we, right? Why couldn't we? Now we're not there yet, but we weren't buying a Kanye West house 2 years ago. If you'd have told me, hey, you're going to be buying a $21 million property in 2 years, I would have said, well, like our average price point right now is $1 million. How are we going to scale that much so quickly? And that's exactly why we came down here. We said, okay, we have a system, it works. Now let's scale it. Now, just like any time you grow, it's painful. So we just have some painful growing pains to get through right now, but it's nothing crippling. It's all manageable stress. And it's something that I wake up every day for, man.
Me too. But on top of that, it's also really exciting. It's for me, it's really exciting. Like I get fired up about it. To be honest.
I know.
When we have to drive to Malibu from here, it is quite a drive, you know. And my first thought is like, the drive. But I'm also, it's gonna be actually pretty cool to get there.
See all the wealth. I mean, so here's the thing. It's not the wealth that I'm necessarily looking at. It's what they've been able to create with their wealth. So every time I see a $100 million, $200 million mega mansion, giga mansion, if you will, I say, what has that person done to accomplish whatever they needed to buy that home? Like, what service did they bring to the world? Now, some of those answers are going to be, well, they created the toaster, the air fryer. You know, it's like, dang, good job, bro. Like every household, like great. And then some are going to be like, well, their family is the chic of this and the whatever, and they haven't had to work for 1,000 years. But I still appreciate their taste in architecture, right? Because they grew up in so much wealth that only they can really wrap around their head around like the most luxurious stuff, because that's all they've been experienced to. They're exposed to, rather. I appreciate that. But probably more so is the story behind where it come from. Because I don't say, oh my God, who built that home? I say, dang, who owns that?
Yeah.
Who owns that? What'd you do, bro? You know, like okay, challenge accepted, right? And so that's what this is all about, right? Is creating an opportunity for us to say, oh yeah, I do real estate at the highest level of real estate. And now, whether or not I'll be able to buy one of those houses someday is another thing that we got some scaling to do significantly. But at least we get to invest in it together right now.
Yeah. I told a friend of mine, I said, now you can put on your resume that you also invest in luxury real estate.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Like
Alfredo.
Yeah. Yes, dude. He has really like embraced all of this, you know, because it really does make sense. The trajectory, right? The direction and the speed and the force in which we're going right now it's powerful. And as people kind of digest what it is we're doing, it's only going to increase this momentum. And so Alfredo is just like a perfect example. He's saying, okay, cool. You know, there's proof behind it. A lot of say, well, let's wait till they close a couple of deals. We've been doing this since 2018. We got thousands under our belt. Like This is not just a, let's create this system like Jeff Bezos did with Arrived Homes. I think he raised $153 million worth of debt and equity to then start buying homes and then fractionalizing them ridiculously, where people are making like 0.2 cents a month, right? You put 100,000 people on a $300,000 home and then split $1,800 a month in mortgage payments. Like that's just a sad thing.
Yeah, I'm sure it makes people feel good. You know, there's like a dopamine hit, regularly, but that just for
that's I call that the Candy Crush effect.
Yeah.
Okay, so they've created an app that basically, gives you probably about the same amount of income as a game like that. Once you get all the balloons or whatever, I don't play the games, but excuse me. There's some sort of like monetary value. You're going to get credits, and then those credits you can buy stuff, or you can get more tokens. Like they created that. So he did that with real estate, like fractionalize it to a game joke level. And if you're listening to me, Jeff, yes, you backed a horrible company. So we're not backed by anybody, 100% bootstrapped, and our averages are over 25%. And it's because we haven't diluted it and just made it such a toxic little video game. This is the real deal. And people like Alfredo are saying, hey, I need to get in on this. Because, as we scale, we have to scale inventory. We don't want to dilute a property by 100,000 people.
No.
So what we have to do is share this with as many people as we can. That way our inventory keeps up with our investors. Our construction management is able to keep up with all of our contractors. All of these have to scale perfectly. And Alfredo could be, pivotal in the investment aspect. There's agents out there that are bringing us inventory that they're making double commissions. So as Alfredos are discovering Belwood, so are the Jean-Baptiste and the Medis and the Oppenheims and like they're finding us and they say, okay, cool. That's exactly why we moved down here.
Yeah. One of the things that I tell people is that I think it helps when I tell people of what I know when I started to where we are now. And it hasn't been that long. But I tell people that I've seen the growth from on paper. And it's all very transparent.
Yes.
Since 2018 to where it is now.
Yes.
I've seen how much our investors are making. And I remind them, I said, hey, look, this is a company that's doing all this that started not long ago in the Sacramento area of California. Right? Like, look where we are now. Like, what is the future and the potential of this? If things will continue to move in this direction, like, that's an amazing trajectory.
It's crazy.
Like, and I keep telling people that, hey, literally, this is the ground floor. Like, this is the time.
I call it the infancy. It's the infancy of the true path of Belwood and where we're going. We are babies in where we're going because there's so much more growth.
But also the investor pool, I'm imagining, was mostly from that area.
Exactly.
And all through word of mouth.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we've just started reaching out beyond.
With you.
Yeah.
So imagine this was Bo and all the people that just were winning, them sharing. It's like, people would say, do you have some proof? Do you have some, like, show me? And I would say, just talk to these 20 people that have just closed in the last month and then hear from the horse's mouth. Like, I don't need to, like, let the product prove itself.
Yeah. I don't know what the full potential is yet. I think it's huge. I just can't totally grasp it yet.
So here's the thing. When I'm looking, so lofty goals. I want to put new builders out of business. Okay. Right now, what we got going on are it's like the concept of, this bridge is falling apart. Let's build one right next to it. Well, why don't we, like, repair that bridge so we don't have two ugly bridges sitting next to each other, impacting everything, right? And then each one has stimulation, like economic stimulation. You have, materials and labor and everything like that. But the environmental impact is far less. So if you practice this with single-family residents in the United States, now we're limited with beach area, right? They only make so much of that. And so those ones typically retain value. You're not going to find a whole bunch of shacks on the beach. But if you just go inland where the true demand of housing is, and you go down the streets, I'm going to find more ugly, decrepit homes than I am going to be finding ready to move in, let's go houses on the market. Okay, so with that being said, what we have to have is a kind of a system created to where these homes are being targeted by our local professional realtors rather than the fancy, look at my card and my 20-year-old screenshot or headshot. Like, let's get to the nitty gritty and let's go after these homes that need to be purchased because the people in them obviously are struggling in some way, need to downsize or something needs to happen. So once we start impacting our local communities and neighborhoods more with those types of restorations or renovations, then we'll start to see some of our housing crisis diminish a little bit. Because right now, we've had a shortage of inventory for a long period of time. So I did some research back in the day, and the amount of carbon emitted, into the environment from, like, semi-trucks, from tractors, from all new construction is the scale is 1/15 versus a restoration. Now, as you know, with our pictures, I can make an old house look brand new, smell brand new, feel brand new. I mean, and often the materials that these older homes were built with were far greater material than what you're building with right now. We're talking old growth wood. We're talking just thicker nails. And, there's some modifications that we're going to need to do, earthquake retrofitting and stuff like that. But for all intents and purposes, the home was built better back then. So we need to take those and we need to continue to work on that. So we have, environmental impact. We have job stimulation growth. We have the beautification of our neighborhoods. Okay, the teenage boys aren't going to be going in there and smoking cigarettes or whatever. In an abandoned home.
Yeah.
Like they're a focus now rather than let's work on those.
Right.
So with that being said, we have an ability to scale Belwood to not just being a luxury line of real estate for people to invest in, but a way for neighbors to get together and improve their neighborhood. Hey, this is a Belwood house. Well, every neighbor on the street has a Belwood app. Let's target this house. Let's see what we can do. Let's put the sales team on them. And let's collectively flip this house together, everybody on the lot, and improve our neighborhood and put a young family in there and everything like that. Like, that is something that I've been trying to, wrap my head around. Like, how can we improve these things? And then it's not just single family homes. It's these big commercial buildings. What are we doing with these things that are just sitting empty? Well, they need to be condo conversions. Because again, that would satisfy a whole bunch of housing issues if we could take the 1/3 of our commercial space right now and convert it to residential.
Right.
So Belwood could absolutely be a partner on that. But then it's not only this, David. What about people from Australia that have been watching Beverly Hills their whole life? What about the people from Afghanistan or China or anywhere, India? They're saying, oh my God, Malibu? I've only heard about Malibu. This is crazy. Kind of like we hear about Monaco, right? Like, wow, I would love to be able to invest in Monaco. Oh my gosh, Grand Prix, film festivals, Bugattis, like that is like, whoa. So that to me is something that Belwood could give people access to the same way somebody in Australia could say, hey, mate, I just put $1,000 on a Malibu property or a Beverly Hills property. I use crypto, right? Because crypto will span any border. Mm-hmm. So we've created a system for the world to invest in real estate, which has been across the board the number one form of investment since day one. Mm-hmm. It hasn't been Coca-Cola, hasn't been Alani, hasn't been Apple. Yeah, these all will give you great returns, but historically, from day one, the one investment that's been outperforming every other investment is real estate. When you invest in a company like this and the CEO just made an extra X amount of dollars because of the growth of the company, what does he go by? Real estate.
Mm-hmm. Right. And then, so I think most people know that real estate is the most stable form of investment.
Stable.
Right?
But it's not accessible.
It's not accessible and becoming more and more inaccessible as the price of homes go up, interest rates are up. Mm-hmm. But Belwood does give the opportunity for people who can't get into a property right away to put your money into something.
Yep.
Yeah. And then maybe one day you'll be able to, maybe you will be able to. But
So that's the whole point of investing in general, right? Is finding something that's safe to invest in to build wealth so you can start buying your own real estate. Now, Belwood isn't a job replacement. However, it could be. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of people that take Belwood very seriously and get involved with investment management or finding properties. They fully commit to something like this. But this is a tool for you to say, okay, cool. I could invest in crypto, or I could invest in some sort of stock, Microsoft or whatever. And each quarter you're going to get, hopefully, get a report, and it's going to have some red lines and green lines. It's going to have some numbers that really don't make sense, and they're going to feed you some bullshit. And that's not what we do. We're going to real estate. We're saying, okay, this is the investment. It's not overall Microsoft. It is 1023 Main Street. That is so much easier to digest when you say, okay, cool. Instead of doing a deep dive into the history of Microsoft and their CEOs and their CFOs and all of these compensating factors, I can look at 1023 Main Street and say, okay, cool. We're buying it for $100,000. We're putting $100,000 into it and we're selling for $400,000. Can we sell it for $400,000? Well, there's these cool websites out there that give you something called comparables. And so you look and you say, okay, Zillow, what are the houses selling for around me? Okay, that one's going for 500. That one's going for 600. That one's going for 400. Now you have just confidently done your due diligence to invest in something, right? Versus, well, the CFO slept with the marketing team. There's a huge thing in value. Like that is so susceptible to just human BS, right? With real estate, our systems are set up with Belwood to mitigate human error. As long as that house makes sense and we put the right contractors on there with the right money in the right period of time, and we have a plan B, that is, what if we can't sell it? Which is, if we can't sell a house, we just make it a rental. So we always have to price them out as a rental. But of course, we sell it and try to make as much money as we can at the beginning. To not have a safety net is further reason why you should avoid other investments rather than real estate. Because real estate offers safety nets. If you're not able to accomplish your $400,000 resale, well, then we have something called a refinance, and we have something called a rental market. And if the buyer's market is not as good, then the rental market with an environment of low inventory will do better. Okay, now in 2007, when the market shifted, rental values actually like went down a little bit, but there was so much more inventory. Okay, so it's just simple supply and demand. Now the market, if it were to take a crash, which we're on a pretty steady pace right now, but if it were to take a crash, people are gonna say, well, I can't buy a home, so I'm gonna rent one. Now, if there is less inventory, then it will be impossible for the values of those rentals to go down like they did in 2007. Mm-hmm. We just don't have the same type of market that we did there.
Yeah. One of the things that surprised me was the amount of unlived in homes, sometimes red tagged homes, the amount of homes in, say, Hollywood Hills that are under construction renovation constantly.
Yep.
I think my perception of that going into it was that because people have a lot of money and they own these beautiful homes, that like the neighborhoods would be, every house would be perfect and perfectly lived in.
Yeah.
But that's not the case.
No.
And when I see that, let's say Belwood bought a property, you got such a good deal on it, I think, how many times is this going to happen? I mean, these houses are really valuable. Why would anybody sell so low? But it seems that there's a lot of property like that. Right?
There's
a lot of it's off market.
So here's the big thing: is in Hollywood Hills, these people are high performing, actors or athletes, or they have a lot of stuff going on. Mm-hmm. And if you were to get into a fixer type of property, it becomes a nightmare. Absolutely, if you don't know what you're doing. So you'll see that with these red tagged homes. You'll see these people that said, "Oh, I watched HGTV. I got this. Let's go to Lowe's and buy some stuff and put it in." And then those are the homes that are either red tagged or just sitting there like not doing anything because that's just part of the process. Then you have people that are like Belwood. They're coming in there and saying, "Hey, there's a demand for real estate here, but it's just what's available isn't stepped up to the point where a person who's performing at their best level in their career is going to want this product." I mean, we're talking LED walls, we're talking lit baseboards and heated floors and waterfalls and sound. I mean, it's got to have all those things. And if it doesn't, then there's somebody else out there that's going to start installing those things. And that's kind of that's our little niche right now is we're taking these homes that are just in disrepair, but built really well, mm-hmm. and we're making a modern product that people want. Right. Every other thing that you see out there are either rookies or people not wanting to sell their home because they see, and a lot of them are owned by people that will never go to them. They're strictly owning them because they know the appreciation mm-hmm. of real estate in the United States. They know that they're not paying a significant amount of property taxes and that the equity is growing faster than taxes. Mm-hmm. So it's a long-term play for those types of people. That's another company, or that's another aspect that a part of our company that we do is we target those houses. Hey guy in China, hey guy in Monaco or wherever, you're sitting on this property. I know you're sitting on this property. You brought it for $1.1 million in 1998. I'll give you 2.2. Now, when I take it down and I put $2 million into it, it'll be worth 6. But to that investor, do they want to take on that headache? Do they really want to? Perfect example is the Moroccan billionaire's mm-hmm. house. Mm-hmm. He's just sitting on that. He doesn't need the money. We've offered him so many different things. He's like, I'll just sit on it. Like, I literally do nothing to it and still make more money.
That's a great example because when I saw that place, I thought, wow, this is such a unique place. If this doesn't go under contract, when is something like this going to pop up again?
They're all over the place. They're all over the place. Yeah, nightclubs and stuff. Yeah. I was at Richard Franklin's house.
Oh boy,
you should have went into that one. Oh my gosh,
I was kind of busy, but
that one was absolutely nuts. But and nobody's going to buy that house.
No, exactly. So these people have obviously a lot of money. They buy this house on the hills. I'm simplifying this, but they also have so much money that they can customize this house to the way they want it to the extreme.
Yeah.
That's a great example.
Yeah.
But the house to
their extreme.
To their
what
extreme.
they want.
Right. And it's hideous.
Which is not typically like everybody's flavor isn't always everybody's flavor.
No,
right?
but in a way that starts to devalue the property because nobody wants it, because all of a sudden they're like, oh, I got to put a couple million into just ripping all this stuff
we have
out.
pink and green mosaic tile in every bathroom here. Like, I'm
Black
sure it
lights
costs
everywhere.
a lot of money to install, and you love it. But you are the only person that loves it.
Yeah, but that's
It's all gotta go.
That's what we see a lot of these places. It's like there are these things that the person who lives in, that was a really great custom element that they wanted, but very few, like to us it's kind of neat, but I don't need that in my house.
No, like maybe we'll isolate that to an accent wall in the powder room. But everywhere else, I mean, the perfect example is Richard Franklin home with all of like the neon paint and the nightclub. I mean, for one, you're really isolating your buyer to Belwood, who's going to completely renovate that thing and gut it, or somebody who's going to be partying for the remainder of their life, which won't be long in a house like that. That is just a party place where it's dark 24/7 if you want it to be. Like lights, like the windows are painted shut. You go downstairs and you're in a nightclub. If you want to be in the nightclub for a month, and if you can survive it, you can have and be in your own nightclub for a month. And how many people can just live like that? It just might be one or two.
It's a cool idea for a rental property. Like a cool Airbnb.
It really would.
It's like the Madonna Inn on a large scale, right? Like a whole house.
It is absolutely like eclectic, but also obnoxious. In so many ways. I would have fun there for probably a couple nights. And then I would just say, I gotta get out of this thing. Like, there's so much going on. It'd be, I don't know how he doesn't just wake up and just be overwhelmed immediately.
It would be a cool place if you were at a party and you showed up, like, oh, it's a really cool place. But then you wake up in the morning, like, what am I doing? I gotta get out.
This is the ground. Like, dude, where's my shoe sticking to the ground?
One last thing on that note. We had gone to a place in, I believe it was Westwood. Maybe it was off Sunset Boulevard.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what it looked, but I remember there was this really interesting entryway, and it was either remodeled or designed by like sort of a famous architect.
The round rotunda thing,
And it had this sort of beautiful. What was it? Like it was like a al fresco or some sort of painting on the walls. I don't know what it was exactly.
Almost a Vatican or Sistine Chapel type of
Yeah, but do you remember the painting on the walls? It had a story out there. And I think the agent at the time was like, well, this is really, it was painted or created by this.
Oh yeah, this guy.
This guy. But then I looked at it and I thought, it was just so culturally inappropriate. It was.
Oh, I know. I know.
Like, we can't even talk about what it was painted on there.
I know. I remember.
Kind of disgusting and but. Like, sadly, if you buy that place, I mean, that almost has to go.
It does.
Yeah.
So in order to save that, you'd have to redirect the entry into that home and then utilize that as like some kind of creepy office. The thing is, it's not, like, I forget who the renovator was, because that home was renovated and he added that in there. That was kind of his thing. He would take these older homes built in like the 60s in Beverly Hills and in the 90s renovate them, but add these round rooms with the art. But it's not, that piece right there is just a sales piece. Like, that's what that salesman wanted to do, is increase the value of that home so we could say, oh my God, it's got a John Walsh, rotunda. Like nobody really cares about that unless you're like focusing. Versus Tadao Ando. The whole building, original, him, not just this little piece that was renovated at one point in time. So honestly, I was being polite, but I would rip that thing up the first day I got in there. I'd personally go in there with a sledgehammer and just get rid of it. It was the ugliest thing. Oh my gosh. And the amount of corners that they were cutting and putting these circular rooms in, I was like, every time you cut these corners off of this room, you're losing, 30% of this room. And some of these rooms were rather big.
Yeah.
We're talking a lot of square footage that's just gone behind a wall. And square corners and angles is something that's more popular now than the Victorian type of thing. Yeah, that one. So racist.
I didn't want to see them, but that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so I mean, old money, I guess.
Yeah. I guess there was a time where people found value in that, or that, but it just felt so outdated. Just, it was weird.
But the neighborhood, amazing.
Amazing.
The structure, amazing. So
and all these really weird nooks underneath. It was really,
Yeah.
strange. But I think you understood that. You could see that more than I could of what the potential of a property like that is.
So you have to go through and you have to pick your battles. You have to pick your battles in this house because you can go in there and spend 10 times what you really need to, but accomplish basically the same thing.
Yeah.
So, that's part of the dance of what Belwood does is that evaluation process. And now these ultra luxury homes, I'm the one doing it. Eventually we'll have more designers in place to go in there. But you can't be a new builder and go into a home like this because they don't have the same experience.
No.
They don't understand what, 13 years of 13 different contractors doing 13 different styles of work looks like. They only know new construction, which is blueprints, architect, let's connect the dots. I'll take a job site visit in my $300,000 truck. My shoes don't have any dirt on them, and these are office contractors, right? They're just not the same. In order to understand the potential transformation of a home, you must have gotten into there. I'll give you an example, a heart surgeon. Do you want to work with a heart surgeon that has been using AI and been working remotely? Or do you want somebody who's cracked open some chests, said, dang, you got one of those hearts. Oh, dang, you got one of those lungs. Oh, I've seen this before. That's really difficult to deal with. Or, well, let me see here. This is something, that's just not what you want. And that's a perfect example for me anyways, of the difference between me and Belwood and Joe New Contractor. Like how many chests have you opened up really? Because I've done thousands.
Sure. Yeah.
And seen some crazy stuff. You go into a new construction build, okay, a Toll Brothers home, you rip open the wall, you're like, yeah, looks about how it should look. You go do that with something built in 1908, that again, that's had 13 different contractors or more, 20 different contractors. Every year they're fixing something, they're adding new technologies in. You're seeing how they've all worked together and how they spliced it all.
It's like an archaeological dig.
It's without a doubt. It's without a doubt. There's so many different types. And then you're having people blend architecture and materials that should not be blended, and you're trying to pick and choose your battles. Well, we can leave that style. We're going to remove the round walls, but we can leave that, right? These are all decisions that you have to make.
Yeah.
And it's better to do that with somebody who's made those decisions a lot.
They had a pretty cool treehouse too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, come on, that was probably a $500,000 treehouse. I know. It's got a coffee machine in there and built-in PS5 or whatever. Yeah, no, it's a different level, that's for sure.
So that was an awesome discussion. That was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Let's do it again.
I hope you join us next time, episode 27, Big Moves Podcast. We'll be talking some deep stuff in real estate.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I'm sure a lot of interesting things are going to happen between now and then.
Yeah, the next episode, we're going to be talking about an epic closing. So listen in.
Yeah.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
See?
Good?